What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Friday. Happy to have everybody along. And today's conversation has been something that's been instant classic type level conversation for A to Z Sports in the past. Is it a trap game or is it not a trap game? That is the question. And Matthew says 2 more sleeps till the Titans are up in Washington to face the Commanders. And for me, 1 more sleep until I have all the anxiety to see if the Vols can beat LSU. And Zach, your Ole Miss Rebels top 10 as well down the road at Vandy. But we're going to talk a lot about Mike Vrabel's comments and what Vrabel said this week that makes us think the Titans could be on trap game alert as they go up and face Carson Wentz and those Commanders. So we'll ask you guys, is it a trap game or is it not a trap game? We'll go through all that. I had a Dog Talk segment yesterday with the Bone and Joint Institute about a timeline for Treylon Burks' turf toe injury. We'll find out if we think that's good news or bad news or indifferent news when it comes to Treylon Burks and a potential timeline based off of my conversation yesterday. Then that Thursday night football game last night, maybe we'll talk about that, but maybe we'll just decide to forget it existed. But then we'll wrap up with Ain't That Good News. And Zach, I'm really pumped about my good news because I'm doing something for the first time in my life on Sunday morning before Titans Commanders. And that's part of my good news that I'm really excited about.
That's a pretty good tease right there. I don't know what that is. That's good news. That is good news. I don't know what that news is, but it sounds like good news. If it's a part of good news, get everybody's good news here ready and rolling for this Friday as we move into the weekend here on A to Z Sports. I think we're going to have a really good show today and this morning with Mike Vrabel talking, as Austin mentioned, and a ton of comments in the comments section. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, which we got you covered on all 3 platforms, plus Twitter, because we will tweet out segment by segment our YouTube link on our Twitter at A to Z Sports. That's at ATOZ Sports. Give us a follow there and subscribe to our YouTube page. A to Z Sports Nashville. That's all you got to search. If you go to YouTube, you'll find us there. Hit the subscription. Boom. Now you got great content going, whether it's post-game, whether it's pre-game, that it is locked in with all of our Titans coverage. Plus, if you're an NFL fan overall, tap into our A to Z Sports Film Room subscription on YouTube. James Foster, our film specialist, does a great job each and every week breaking down film of individual players. He does at least 1 Titans video film breakdown per week. So if you're a Titans fan, you can get it locked there. We got Cowboys, we got Bengals, Raiders, Packers, all the NFL teams that you know and love over on A to Z Sports Film Room. And shout out to Facebook, the real OGs, bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show on this Friday. More people are going to be piling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes as you guys do. Please share the show, share the broadcast around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. How that works is you guys share the show. So let's get this party started on a Friday in October, right before a big football weekend.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media because we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on Twitter. Hit us up on Instagram and TikTok, but we got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out you guys with Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, rates, and service. FBHP.com/ATOZ. And Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers, the official injury lawyers of your Tennessee Titans. Hit them up and get that free case consultation if you've been injured in a car wreck at 800-800-4600. So, Zach, it's funny because 2 times this week we have had segments that have been viewer requested. Yesterday's Doc Talk segment was requested by our friend Karen on Facebook, who said, hey, can we get a Doc Talk about Treylon Burks' turf toe? And so what did we do? We got a Doc Talk about Treylon Burks and turf toe, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. But Josh on Instagram slid into our DMs and was like, hey, Should we have the trap game conversation about the Tennessee Titans going at the Washington Commanders, a Titans team winning 2 in a row versus a Commanders team losing 3 in a row right ahead of a bye week? So we'll get into that. But Mike Vrabel did have some comments, Zach, earlier this week about this Commanders team that I think leads us into this trap game conversation. So here was Vrabel from earlier this week.
I think of their front with 4 first-round picks. I don't know if Young is playing, but so at least 3 first-round picks there. What do you think of that?
I mean, Nick certainly figured it out a couple years ago with recruiting interior defensive linemen. They're fantastic. Payne and Allen, Sweat, length. Payne and Allen, they got great instincts. They play great with their hands. They're pad level. They're not just 2 gappers. They can disrupt. They can change it up. Rarely out of position, rarely on the ground, and very disruptive. It would be a huge challenge for us.
Does it help to have kind of what you've seen from Carson Wentz last season, facing him, and just the problems that he kind of having this year? Obviously, been sacked 17 times, just taking advantage of that.
Right, and they have been sacked 17 times. They've also moved the ball down the field very effectively. He's done a great job on 3rd down. So his play strength in the pocket has allowed them to move the football downfield at times, and they mix it up and they'll get it in McLaurin and Samuel's hands quickly and allow those guys to create, but then also have the ability to hold on to it and move the ball down the field.
So the Washington Commandskins football team has lost 3 straight, but they do have some good pieces because they have weapons on the outside. Even without Jahan Dotson playing in this game, you've got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and some others on the outside who can beat you with speed. And then, as Mike Vrabel said, having a couple former Alabama players up front with Nick Saban recruiting big, fast defensive linemen, they do have a front on defense who can get after you and really slow down the run. So, Zach, what was your reaction to hearing Mike Vrabel there?
Well, I think he pointed out the 2 threats that the Commanders pose.
Yeah.
And they have not played good football all in all. They beat the Jags, week 1 in Washington. But, last week was really bad against the Cowboys. I watched that game, and there was glimpses of good play. But overall, if you pointed out 2 things that the Commanders do well, which Mike Vrabel did, it's their defensive front because they got 1st-round picks and really talented players on that defensive front. And then it's the outside. Terry McLaurin, he gets lost in the mix in the AJ, DK, and Debo conversation, but he got a big contract too. He's just had terrible quarterbacks throwing to him, and he still got the big contract because of the productivity. And then I think he brings up a key player that had a really good game and a hell of a catch in the end zone in Jahan Dotson. That's your guy, Austin. When I think of Dotson out of Penn State, that was a guy that you had targeted the Titans to potentially draft in this past year's draft. It didn't shake out that way. He was drafted before the Titans drafted Treylon Burks and all the A.J. Brown stuff. But you got to watch him.
Well,
Very
he's out.
reliable,
He's out.
Good route runner, and good hands.
But Dotson's out. He's not playing. He had a hamstring injury, and so he's going to miss at least a couple games. So the 2 guys you have to worry about, Vrabel mentioned Nick Saban and recruiting defensive linemen with Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, but you also have the 2 Ohio State receivers in Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin. So you have to really worry about those guys. Not having Dotson is a good thing because that guy's just pure elite speed overall, and his ability to track the football down the field as a deep threat is why I like Jahan Dotson so much for the Titans in the draft process, because the Titans lack that thing, right? And John says don't discount Antonio Gibson, the Washington's running back. And so then also Chase Young, not expected to play either. So you've got 2 young pieces that are talented for Washington. They're out. The Titans have their own injury issues, as we all well know. And Amani Hooker looked like he'd taken a step back in his concussion protocol yesterday after being limited Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to say this. The Commanders have a decent roster besides their quarterback. And we'll talk about Carson Wentz here in a second. But
it's because they have Alabama and Ohio State guys all over the place. And Brian Robinson's supposed to be back at running back after getting shot in a car robbery earlier in the season.
So I think Mike Vrabel, what he told us in that video is that he is aware of what they can do, right? And that's something that the Titans need to recognize going into this game. The Titans are favorites. A lot of people are picking only the Titans, not the Commanders. A lot of people believe that the Commanders are the bottom 2 to 3 teams in the league. And this is a game that the Titans should win. They absolutely should go to Washington and take care of business. But Austin, just like the NFL is very weird, it's weird because, the Denver Broncos should have taken care of business last night, and that didn't happen. That game went into overtime, and the Colts ended up winning, which doesn't help the Tennessee Titans to keep the Colts hanging around.
Yeah, and Zach, we were in the process at A2ZSports.com of literally writing an obituary for the Colts. And it was going to be hilarious, and maybe we'll just keep that in our back pocket for when it comes to that, because the Colts, I don't think, are going very far anytime soon. But I did see a comment here earlier that tells us and leads us right into our conversation that says it feels like this game is a trap. Christine says it could be a trap game, and that's the conversation that we're here to have. Titans at Commanders. Is this a trap game or not a trap game? Is it a trap game or not a trap game? It's a pretty easy question there for you guys to answer. Trap game or not a trap? But first, let me tell everybody about Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers. They're the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. And if you have been injured in a car wreck, you need to call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation at 800-800-4600. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients across the entire state of Tennessee and in Kentucky, and will fight the insurance company for you the way they've done it for decades here with their clients. Again, the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. That means they care about you, the Tennessee Titans fan, and want to make sure you get all the dollars you deserve for what you've gone through. So if you've been injured in a car wreck, call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation. That's 800-800-4600, 800-800-4600, principal office in Nashville, Tennessee.
BetMGM, download the app today. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports. They're the king of sports books. That is BetMGM. You can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new users. If you're a new user, download the app today in your Apple or Android store. When you download it, when you sign up, because there's a process of signing up, there's a promo code tab. Click that promo code tab and type in A to Z Sports. All one word, no spaces. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. You can bet to your heart's galore all weekend long. Got a lot of football games, but download the BetMGM app today.
Trap game or not a trap game? Again, thanks to Josh, who requested this classic of a topic from A to Z Sports. As Zach and I tend to disagree on trap or no trap a lot. But Zach, I'll send you to the comment section. What are people saying? Will this be a trap game or not a trap game for the Titans at the Commanders?
Well, before we do this, let's define trap, because
that's fine. Yeah, I like that. I'll let you define trap.
One thing that we talked about, you have gone on record to say that a divisional game cannot be a trap game, and that is a bold-faced lie, because I have numerous times given examples of trap games that are divisional trap games.
That's why this conversation is always a classic between us, because we have different definitions of trap games. I don't think a divisional game can be a trap game because of the importance of every divisional game. That doesn't mean that if you lose the game, it's because you got trapped. It's because you lost a game against a divisional opponent that are typically close, hard to win football games that every coach and player around the NFL will tell you. So
trap is defined by lesser opponent. You don't have a trap game when you have an opponent that is equal or greater to your skill set. A lesser opponent can be the Texans, who suck. It can be the Jags, who notoriously have been bad. And we've seen trap games in that sense. Now, the Commanders, and the reason why we bring this up is the Commanders, they fit this description initially based on them being a bad football team. That's why we were talking about this in general. Right. So the bye brings a caveat, but let's get to the chat. Darren starts off with a lot of exclamation points after saying the Admiral Akbar, "It's a trap." And so Darren believes that it is a trap. 100% trap game from Steven. Jay says this is a crap game, which is also funny. Maserati Mac, who we love that Facebook name. Trap game right there. Not a trap. Lost to the Giants already from Jason, but the Giants are 3-1. You got to remember, Jason, this ain't the last couple of year Giants.
Yeah, good. Congrats for your wins over the Panthers and I forget who else they played. Maybe the Commanders. I forget who else the Giants beat.
Jonathan says it's a trap. Only Memphis says no trap from Matthew, no trap from Xavier. It's a trap from Jarrett. It's a trap from Steven. Trap game from Andrew. It's a trap from Ronald. Rooney says not. So we're going back and forth. Jake says it's not a trap game when you've struggled to make it to 2-2. How about that? So I think we stop on Jake's comment real quick because I do think that Jake has a point. The 2-2 factors into what this is. Now, the Titans are better than the Commanders on paper. We'll find out on the field at Sunday at high noon. But because of the record, I do think that that's intriguing because to get to 2-2, you've got to do something. You got to lose 2 games and win 2 games. But then you're at 2-2. A loss then puts you at 2-3, below 500, heading into the bye.
Yep.
The bye makes this the most interesting point because here's how I define a trap.
Okay.
A trap is you overlooking a lesser opponent for something else. Now, what does something else represent? Usually it represents a bigger game, a bigger opponent, a more meaningful game. In this case, I would probably define this as a trap game later in the season on the other side of a bye because you needed to get healthy. But the fact of the matter is this is week 5. So in my opinion, this is not a trap.
Ooh.
This is not a trap.
Ooh.
Because the bye does not represent in week 6, which is their bye, that does not represent the same meaning of a bye in week 12 or week 11 or week 10, in which you're probably needing that bye even more to get healthy. So to answer this question, this is not a trap game for the Tennessee Titans. I think they can. I'm not going to say will. I will. I will say that they will. I believe that they will take care of business and not make this a trap game. You know, you can think about this on the other side. It's a trap game if they lose, right? But we don't have that knowledge yet.
Right.
I don't think this is a trap game overall because of where the bye is placed, and I think that is impactful on the other side of this game.
All right, I'm going to go with a little meteorology for everybody to tell you what I think about this game. This is a trap game watch. A trap game watch because it has all the ingredients needed to be a trap game. Just like a tornado watch, the weather, the atmosphere has all the ingredients required to potentially form a tornado. But it doesn't mean a tornado is actually going to happen. It just means, hey, you need to watch out because things are kind of getting a little unstable up there in the clouds, and you might have to do something later on. But we don't have to worry about it yet, but just be a heads up. So this is a trap watch because the Commanders are a lesser team. There is something to look ahead to afterwards, like the bye week, like you said. And the reason why I do think that it doesn't matter about where the bye week is right here is because I think that the Titans are so banged up that the bye week is like, oh God, we need this bye week. That's what the Titans are thinking. And also another factor is that I do think it's Washington. So Washington is an NFC opponent. So it doesn't have the level of weight of AFC opponents or divisional opponents of winning this game. So it does have trap game watch written all over it. But here is what I say, Zach. This is not a trap game because the Titans are not good enough to have a trap game. Usually trap games happen when teams are good. Like Alabama can have trap games because they are so freaking good. Georgia at Missouri last Saturday is a trap game because Missouri sucks out loud. It's at Missouri on the road ahead of one of their biggest rivals in the Auburn Tigers the next weekend. Georgia almost fell into that trap. Now they survived, but so the Titans are
A
not
divisional
good.
opponent in Missouri, right there.
But that the
I'm
SEC,
just saying.
but college and NFL is so
I'm just
different. Like, you
saying.
know that, but
I'm
you know
just saying.
college, you know that's so different. So like you're gonna
Just
pick and
saying.
choose some things there too. But they are so different. But the Titans aren't good enough to be a trap, to have a trap game on their schedule right now. If they were 3-1 because they beat the Giants and the Commanders are 1-3, then maybe I can get on board with it because I still think the Titans are good enough to acknowledge that. But they're not good enough to afford this. They've got injuries and guys that have to step up. So, and I disagree with you on this. If the Titans lose to the Commanders, it's not a trap game in retrospect. They just lost because the Titans can lose to just about anybody this year. So that's what I say. Not a trap game. If the Titans lose, it's also not a trap in retrospect. It's just the fact that the Titans lost to a team that they had a chance to lose to.
But Austin, looking at, you talked about if they were 3-1, they should be 3-1. They should have beaten the Giants. They should have beaten the Las Vegas Raiders based on what team that they are and how they've performed this season. And they should have beaten the Colts. They should not have beaten the Bills. But Austin, they should be 3-1. So
Sure.
That's where I disagree with you. You're sitting there saying that, look, they're not as good I don't think that they are as good as we maybe thought they could be because of Burks and some of the other outliers. But also, they should be 3-1 and they should be a good football team.
Well, let me explain. Go deeper into that, because the way the Titans lost to the Giants and then the way they almost lost to the Raiders and then the way they almost allowed the Colts to tie it back up, that tells me that the Titans are a, average football team. Because if they were 3-1, then along that way, we probably have a different thought process about what this team is, and our psyche is in a different place. But because they're 2-2 and they've given up 3 halftime leads and made every game close in the ones besides the Bills game where they got blown out, that's my point there. Is because it's because
Here's where
of
I
how
disagree with you.
It's because of what their 2-2 looks like and how it happened.
No, they are slightly above average. The two teams we saw last night on Thursday Night Football are below average.
Oh, yeah.
They were 2-2, but they're both below average. The Titans are not. My whole thing with the Tennessee Titans, if you watch and listen to this show on a consistent basis and you hear the words that come out of my mouth, I've never once said that the Titans are a terrible or a bad football team or a bad franchise. I think that they have a low ceiling. That's what I've maintained. I think Ryan Tannehill and the structure of their offense maintains that they have a low ceiling. That's why I predicted them to make the playoffs, but lose their playoff game at the beginning of the season before the season actually started. The Titans have shown, I think, us that they are slightly above average. As I said, they should be 3-1. And that makes them a slightly above average team. The two teams last night, below average, we've established that. The Commanders are a bad football team, right? They're not close to average. They're a bad football team.
Mm-hmm.
The outlier for me, I think that this does have the makings of a trap game, but the reason why it is not is because it on the other side, you're sitting there saying that they are injured and hurt and all of that stuff, not compared to what
You went away.
Not compared to what they're going to be in week 12. And so that's why it's too early as a bye for me to say that they need this bye. Like, I mean, who really, and I don't know who's going to get injured or hurt this game, but like Lawan and Landry aren't walking through that door. They're done, right? They're going to get back maybe Amani Hooker from concussion protocol.
I mean, I don't know.
We don't know about Burks, who we'll talk about later in this show, Molden and some other pieces, but they're not going to get like astronomically better and more healthy week 7. So that's why my point is the bye means less in week 6 than it would in week 10.
And I think when the schedule came out in May, everybody looked at the Titans having an early bye week and was like, oh man, that's brutal. But now that we're here, the Titans need this bye next week. They need the reset, and they need to be a reset at 3-2 to allow guys to get back. The injury report is lengthy for what this team is going through after just 4 games. And you've got guys who have missed multiple games like Bud Dupree, Ola Daney, Amani Hooker, who, again, the Amani Hooker thing, he practiced Wednesday limited, then he backtracked in concussion protocol. Bud Dupree has a hip. Burks has the toe. Ola Daney hasn't been seen since the first half against Buffalo. And then you've got some other guys. And so you're down a bunch of pass rushers. You're down some other playmakers. You've got to get healthy and maybe get some of these guys off of IR who started the season on IR, like Molden, McMath, Rice, who is practicing, all that stuff. Bud Dupree and his hip injury re-aggravating after missing week 3.
Here's again why I think you're incorrect. They don't need a bye in week 5. Week 6, excuse me. They need a bye in week 12. And the reason why is if you could actually set your own bye, they need a bye after the Cincinnati Bengals game because you're going to go through Murderers Row, who you hadn't even gotten to, the hardest part of your schedule, and you would want it. You play Thursday night against the Packers, and then you play the Bengals. But before that, you're playing the Broncos and the Chiefs. So the bye really needs to be right before at Philadelphia, who's proven they're a good team, and Jacksonville because they're a divisional opponent. And then you go through the rest of the season. So if you could actually pick out the bye, it ain't week 6, it's week 12. And so that would be more impactful to get ready. And if you're trying to make a playoff run, that sets you up for the rest of the season. So again, I'm concentrating on the bye because that is my justification on why this particular week is not a trap game.
Yeah.
It sounds like your justification is that the Titans aren't good enough
exactly
to call this.
Yes. The Titans are not deserving to have a trap game labeled for them.
I just think that they're better than the perception. I mean, they've had terrible second halves. Do not get me wrong. But what they did in the first half should tell you that they have it in them. Like, if we didn't know if they actually had that in them to score 24 points in 2 quarters, then I would say, yeah, you're absolutely correct. But they've shown us that they can be competent at times.
And the good thing is, as Lucas brings up, Zach, they have the mini bye week 11 before that Bengals game after the Thursday night against the Packers. But again, you're traveling you're on the road for that mini bye, which, makes it a little bit less. And then, the goal is to make the playoffs at this point. The Titans also have a mini bye going in the last week of the season. So they do have another opportunity with 2 Thursday night games. So they got week 6 full bye, week 11 mini bye, week 17 mini bye. So as long as you're playing in week 19, then you're set up to be good. You just got to make it to week 19, which is the wild card round of the playoffs. So they're not good enough to be getting a trap game, but I do think trap game watch, like the atmosphere has the ingredients necessary for it to be a trap game, but the Titans are not good enough for those ingredients to fully come together.
So let's and we don't have to play it again, but I'll repeat what Mike Vrabel talked about the Washington Commanders.
I do want to play it again because I don't think we really talked enough about what he said and what it means for Sunday. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com/A to Z is where you need to go to get your new health plan. I got my new health plan at the beginning of this year, and I'm really glad that I did. Better coverage, better service at a better rate. I got all 3 of those things by switching my health plan. My previous health plan was awful, to be honest. And I didn't even kind of realize that until I shopped around and I got a quote from Farm Bureau Health Plans. I was like, wow, I was overpaying and I had worse coverage. Now I pay 20% less every single month, and I have better coverage. And I get free teledoc conferences when I'm sick, which I've used, unfortunately, but fortunately this year. I get a contact allowance because I've been wearing these bad boys since 7th grade. I also get free teeth cleanings. Like, I get these perks because I switched. You should switch. At least get a quote. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not forcing you to do it. But I am saying, hey, I would go get a quote and see maybe how bad your coverage is currently. Maybe Farm Bureau Health Plans is better. It was for me. It's better service, better rates, better coverage right there at Farm Bureau Health Plans. That's FBHP.com/ATOZ.
Don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Use our code ATOZ Sports for a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000. It is Friday, which means A to Z Sports Picks presented by BetMGM with Alan Bell and Brian Edwards today at 2 o'clock to get you ready for college football and pro football over the weekend. So get geared up for that. and download the app. Again, use our code ATOZ Sports for a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on pro football. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only new customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualifications and eligibility requirements. Awards issued with knowledgeable free bets and credit. For bets expire 7 days. For problem game support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Zach, let's hear one more time from Mike Vrabel and really dive into like where the Commanders have their strengths and how they can take advantage of the Titans.
Think of their front with 4 first-round picks. I don't know if Young is playing, but so at least 3 first-round picks there. What do you think of that?
I mean, Nick certainly figured it out a couple years ago with recruiting interior defensive linemen. They're fantastic. Payne and Allen, Sweat, length. Payne and Allen, they got a great instincts. They play great with their hands. They're pad level. They're not just two gappers. They can disrupt. They can change it up. Rarely out of position, rarely on the ground, and very disruptive. It would be a huge challenge for us.
Does it help to have kind of what you've seen from Carson Wentz last season facing him and just the problems that he kind of having this year? Obviously been sacked 17 times, just taking advantage of that.
Right, and they have been sacked 17 times. They've also moved the ball down the field very effectively. He's done a great job on third down. So his play strength in the pocket has allowed them to move the football downfield at times, and they mix it up and they'll get it in McLaurin and Samuel's hands quickly and allow those guys to create, but then also have the ability to hold on to it and move the ball down the field.
Zach, what's your biggest takeaway from those two answers from Vrabel?
Well, the two things: protect Ryan Tannehill and don't give up big plays in the secondary. That's it. That's what I heard after listening to that. Protect Ryan Tannehill. Don't give up sacks. Give him an amount of time to get it to whoever he's going to pass it to. And the problem defensively, big plays. I don't know how much Caleb Farley's going to be playing, but he can't be giving up big plays like he has in the past. And Carson Wentz, look, love him or hate him. Most people hate him. I don't particularly care for him. I don't think he's a good quarterback, but he is a risk taker. Like, he's not shy. He's not Chad Pennington. He's not Dump Down Dan. Like, he extends plays to throw the football down the field. Now, sometimes, it goes into other players' hands that he doesn't want it to or incomplete, but protect Ryan Tannehill and defend the deep ball.
Yeah, and I immediately thought when Vrabel said that about pushing the ball down the field, I flashed back to in Indianapolis Halloween last year of all the deep pass interference penalties that were called on the Titans secondary just because Carson Wentz chunked it up in the air. It had nothing to do with Carson Wentz being a good quarterback. It was literally just a prayer and asking the striped guys to bail out Carson Wentz. And it worked a few times. And I remember the stat last year with the Colts, Carson Wentz was leading the NFL by miles of defensive pass interference yards drawn throughout the game. Like, they basically won in San Francisco because of pass interference penalties last season. So I do think that's interesting, but I also know this. Christian Fulton was out for the Buffalo game, and Stephon Diggs was like a Hall of Famer that night. But if you look at the last two games, the Titans have shut down the number one option for both teams, the Raiders and the Colts. Now, other players went off like Mac Hollins and Mo Alley Cox and had nice games, but Devontae Adams, 5 catches for 36 yards on 10 targets. That's not efficient passing game.
And 10 targets tells us they were trying to get him the football.
10 targets for Devontae Adams and 5 for 36. He did score a touchdown on Byard, which was just a great play by Devontae Adams, and there's nothing Byard can do about that. Michael Pittman last week, 3 catches, 31 yards, 6 targets. So you're telling me that the best two options on the last two teams had 50% completion rate and small, tiny yards per catch, and they didn't have any big plays? I mean, it's pretty interesting there. So, and that's with Christian Fulton playing. So McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, like, there's speed out there. Christian Fulton can't cover them both. So somebody's going to have a bigger game than the other. But Do you allow the Mo Alley Coxes and Matt Collins of the world to gain yards because you want to shut down Devontae Adams and Michael Pittman?
And you also have to prevent what we saw in week 1. Blown coverage, Sterling Shepard, 7 points, stolen, back in the game.
Yeah.
You can't
and that
those.
was Christian Fulton giving that up too, which was which was uncharacteristic.
Yeah, well, and the pass interference, I remember you complaining about that last year in our post-game show and being frustrated because that's all that is testing the discipline of cornerbacks. It's not, and I think go to Tiffany's comment. She goes, what deep ball? LOL, right? You don't have to have a great deep ball. All you have to do is to get it to work. And it can work in a couple of different ways. And we saw that last year. The Titans are familiar with Carson Wentz. They know how to get after him. They sacked him multiple times last season when they played him twice. So they got to take advantage of this, but they got to come into Washington. And I think everybody would agree with that. Take care of business. Don't let them linger. When you have a 24-10 lead, this is the type of game, Austin, that they can really focus and hone in on improving what they do poorly. And that is second half play. You can, I'm not saying it's practice, but the third and fourth quarters, now you're going up against a lesser opponent. You should be more efficient than you have the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. A to Z Sports. Remember, Jahan Dotson, the Washington rookie wide receiver, is out with a hamstring injury. Brian keeps bringing up another rookie, Calvin Austin III. Calvin Austin plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know why Brian continues to bring him up. He made me double check to make sure that Calvin Austin was not on the Commanders, which threw me off. But Treylon Burks, what's the status of him? He has not practiced the last 2 days with that turf toe injury, and also has not been put on injury reserve yet. So I did talk to a foot and ankle specialist yesterday at the Bone and Joint Institute who gave me a potential timeline for Treylon Burks and that turf toe injury. But first, let me tell you more about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. Ronald Durr, who you're about to hear from, is just one of a dozen plus specialists at the Bone and Joint Institute who specialize in all types of injuries because he is a foot and ankle specialist. Dr. Scott Arthur, my guy, knee, hip, a lot of different things. Shoulders, they got everybody. They have a concussion specialist. They have spine. They do everything at the Bone and Joint Institute from head to toe, literally, and they can make sure that if you have an injury to whatever part of your body, for whatever different reasons, sports or life, they can help you get back to health at the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin, also having clinics in Brentwood, Thompson Station, and in Nolensville. boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM, download the app today. They're hooking you up with a risk-free bet up to $1,000 if you are a new user. How you become a new user is you download the app today, use the promo code ATOZ Sports, and boom, you're signed up. So it's that simple. It's that easy. That's promo code ATOZ Sports. That is the king of sports books. That's BetMGM.
All right, so I talked yesterday with Dr. Ronald Durr, foot and ankle specialist at the Bone and Joint Institute. The entire segment on our YouTube and Facebook right there for you guys to go check out. It was about 14 minutes, a lot of good information, but a potential timeline for Treylon Burks and his turf toe injury. We'll go to the clip.
Yeah, there are grades. So we grade a turf toe injury, a grade 1, a grade 2, and a grade 3, 1 being the mildest, 3 being the most severe. Grade 1 is where you stretch the ligaments, but you don't really tear them. 2, you have a little more injury and some tearing of the ligaments, but the joint is still nice and stable, but just more injured. And then a grade 3, a lot of times you're actually tearing the ligaments completely. You could even fracture a bone. The toe could be dislocated. 3s are obviously really severe injuries. It doesn't sound like, from what we hear, that Treylon had that type of injury. Even a grade 1 may keep you out of play for a week or 2 or 3. Grade 2s maybe 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how quickly they respond to therapy and treatment. But it sounds like his was a more mild 1 or 2 type of injury.
That's good news, right? Because Ian Rappaport did report from the NFL Network that no surgery was needed. And Dr. Durr later on in that segment did tell me that, when that ligament tears off of that bone in the foot, which sounds gruesome, that's when surgery is required. So, maybe you could have or require surgery on a grade 2 turf toe, but definitely a grade 3. So it sounds like if you want to go with that, I would stay in the middle. I would say 3 or 4 weeks for Treylon Burks, which is interesting because they have not made a move yet. Putting him on injured reserve before the Washington game would keep him out for 4 games, not 4 weeks, 4 games. And so if we go back to our schedule graphic here, we can see that that would be Washington, Indianapolis, Houston, and Kansas City, which would be overall 5 weeks of rest for Burks. So if they think it could be a 3 or 4 week injury, maybe you can get Treylon Burks back against the Chiefs, and you don't want to put him on IR yet, but they have until Saturday to make that move. So we'll be watching that tomorrow afternoon. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, is that the deadline?
Yeah, because I mean, it would be dumb if the Titans waited until it was too late to count the Commanders game as one game, right? Like you want to count.
Well, that's going to tell us something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they play the Commanders game and they don't put them on IR, then they lost themselves a potential week.
And I think the depth of this is we don't know what the grade is. Like we don't know how severe it is. You know, they put him in a boot and put him on crutches after the game for precautionary reasons.
Well, you go back and look at it, and that's how the recovery starts. And you know, I asked Dr. Durr about conditioning. How do you, if you're wearing a boot, how do you stay in shape? Because we know that's been a situation with Treylon Burks in his NFL life. That, you know, he can still do things in a pool or on a stationary bike to help some of that. So, you know, I'm really interested to see what happens over the next 36 hours before Saturday closes to see what they do here.
It's unfortunate because this is a big thing that has happened in his rookie season. He's not going to be 100% healthy probably the rest of the way. I don't want to completely count him out, but this is turf toes linger. We've known this about, you know, athletes in sport and turf toe, but you can play through it, but it's going to be tough. And, you know, Treylon Burks is learning. We saw in the first 4 weeks of the year that he's learning, that he is learning that you can go down and you can save your offense a play instead of having 10 guys, you know, reset and have 11. There are different things that he has kind of made some rookie mistakes on this season. He's not going to get that chance to kind of figure those out if he's sidelined. And it sounds like that's what's going to happen. But you're right. Tomorrow, by the deadline, is going to be telling on where this injury is in the eyes of the Titans.
Yeah, Caleb brings up a good comment on Facebook. He says also the fact they cannot bring as many players back off IR this year may be a reason they don't, because they changed that rule. Last year, you could stash players on IR for a minimum of 3 games and then bring back as many as you wanted. Then the Titans definitely exploited that, but now it's a minimum of 4 games and you can only bring back 8 guys off of IR. And Monty Rice so far is 1. Then, you know, Elijah Molden, Racing McMath, you expect those guys to be 2 and 3. And then, you know, who else is on IR at this point? I don't think there's a ton of guys. You know, Lawan and Landry are not coming back anytime soon. So you're not worried about them being on IR. So, you know, I still think you've got 5 more spots to play with. And if Burks is going to be out for 4 or more weeks, put him on IR so you can go bring up Josh Gordon as a body and not have him be just stuck on the practice squad.
Well, then explain the Josh Gordon situation about his salary too.
Exactly, because he's on the practice squad. You can elevate a practice squad player for a game 3 times and then revert them to the practice squad without having to pay them a roster salary. So maybe if Burks does go on IR, now you've got 4 weeks where you probably need Josh Gordon. You've already used that practice squad elevation twice. So now you might need him for 3 or 4 games. That might be enough to sign Gordon to the actual roster if Burks is stashed on IR. Without Burks on IR, you don't have that spot to play with, and Josh Gordon might just stay where he's at.
You know, it's really unfortunate. The Racing McMath thing, he was building up and doing so much better. Let's just say that. I don't want to say so well, but so much better. This training camp compared to last training camp, he had obviously single-handedly overtaken Des Fitzpatrick, who was drafted higher than he was. And then he gets hurt and he's out for the start of the season. That Racey McMath is that threat that they do not have whatsoever. They really do need him, but they got to get him back healthy because his injury is a hip, correct?
I don't remember, to be honest. I can search through my emails from the Titans real quick.
I want to say it was a hip. And now you don't want to do the same thing that you did with Bud Dupree, in which you brought him back too soon and, he re-injures himself in the first.
We don't know because when you place a player on injured reserve, there's no designation of what it is because Racey McMath never practiced during a game week.
Yeah, so Tennessee expected to place the second-year receiver Racey McMath on injured reserve with a hip injury.
Okay, because
So
he never had a game week practice. The Titans never had the designated injury on it, so I guess that was a source there on that. So
and Caleb says Dupree is glass. I don't want to say he's glass, but he's not steel. Let's just say that. He's had his fair share of problems with staying healthy since he signed. Whether he came back too early from an ACL or he came back too early for a hip. He's not helping the Titans by not playing.
I'm with you. I think because if you look at Bud Dupree, the guy was good in Pittsburgh and didn't miss games. He was productive and he was out there. I think this is a continued ACL thing because last year he talked about the abdominal injury and that's being an overcompensation because he's powerful and explosive. So when he's not able to drive through a leg or a knee like he wants to, maybe you put more strain on your abdominal or your hip. I think it's all connected to the ACL.
Well, I told you guys, and we'll talk about this here in a second, say a little prayer for the Xfinity guy. We need to say a little prayer for Harold Landry that he doesn't go to the same ACL guy that Taylor Lewan went to.
Yeah, I still think there's a lawsuit coming. From what we heard from Lewan from Bussin' with the Boys this week, I think there's something more to that.
How does that work? So, you have to, and now let's just set aside, there's no legal stuff. I'm just asking. Obviously going into a surgery on a professional athlete, there's liability, right? I mean, his career, his, future revenue is in the doctor's hands. Don't you have to prove that something was done incorrectly? Because every body is different, right? You have to prove that something was done incorrectly within the surgery to yield money from a lawsuit, right? Or are you just suing for lost wages? That's a good question that we need a lawyer on because I don't know.
Well, we do have Hughes and Coleman now, so we do have, we've got the Bone and Joint Institute for one side of things. And so, and Nika says, yes, medical malpractice is hard to prove.
And we do, and that has not been clarified. It has not been publicly announced that Lewan is suing anybody, but we're trying to kind of read into it a little bit.
And maybe Jameson says, I think that's what these subsequent evaluations do is prove malpractice. Hey, law school Ben says, you have to prove the doctor didn't exercise the standard of care of a doctor who regularly performs a surgery.
See, look, when we got questions, we got the chat. When the chat is big enough to support us in trivia, in law, and look, we bring in real doctors to the show because of our sponsor. But look, we had, this is the best part, because of Hughes and Coleman, we got lawyers now, baby.
And Lucas just branded it for us. It's a law call. That sounds awesome. We've got Doc Talk in the law call with Hughes and Coleman.
We've been hilarious. We do a law call after Dupree's Walgreens scenario.
I mean, it's not out.
Well, how much money can he get for stealing a man's phone in Walgreens? Hey, give me that.
A long call. I mean, I like this. Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate that. And we've got Toss No Moss in the law call from our viewers over the last couple of days. Zach, before we get to good news, can we make fun of Russell Wilson, please?
Yeah, and if you want to first, I thought Good Morning Football, which I don't watch because we do our show, but did you see that?
Do you have the clip?
No, I watched it this morning, but
I saw Kyle Brandt call him a phony, And
No, not a phony.
what was it? A poser.
Poser.
Called him a poser.
And the way Kyle Brandt backed up Russell Wilson being a poser, I agree with him. Like, Russell Wilson's actions have led him to this point. And Kyle Brandt brought up the good point of if you're getting paid that much money, you have to do two things. You have to be really good at football so it doesn't matter, or you've got to be a really good locker room guy. And what we've seen from Russell Wilson, he's not playing really good football. He's a really good football player. We've seen it before, but he's not playing really good football. And when you try to rah guys to say, run, pass, come on, guys, call it out. You're not Josh Allen in the Bills locker room, right? Like, Josh Allen is beloved. Like, Aaron Rodgers, even you with your contact, Lucas Patrick, who played for the Packers, has been notorious to say that Aaron Rodgers is beloved in that locker room.
Oh, everybody's in Green Bay. The people who play for the Packers because Aaron Rodgers is there. If Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, then nobody would want to go to Green Bay. And the thing is, we just haven't seen a Green Bay without Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers in over 30 years to prove that, right? And the Colts are going through their own thing. They're still paying their debts to the football gods for having Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck in back-to-back situations and eras. Now they've got this trash with Matt Ryan. But guys, Russell Wilson is broken as a human being. He is malfunctioning. He is a robot who is malfunctioning. Listen to how he ended his press conference last night.
Keep believing in. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Broncos country. That's right.
He's caught up in this. He can't stop saying Broncos country, let's ride. He can't. He is a malfunctioning robot.
Keep believing in. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Broncos country. That's right.
The best thing I've seen of anybody breaking down Russell Wilson's actions since being traded to the Broncos is from Jeff Schwartz, who we usually hate on. But Jeff Schwartz nailed this. Russell Wilson is a method actor who cannot get out of the character. The movie was shot and aired 3 years ago, but he's still acting as that character. He is a method actor performing as a quarterback, and he can't break it. He is a malfunctioning robot of a person. He can't act normal. Nobody does that at the end of a press conference, but it's so entwined in his software that he can't not say it. Russell Wilson's broken. And let me just say this, Zach. Russell Wilson's not a great quarterback.
No,
Russell Wilson is not a great quarterback. He is an average quarterback. He has been a great quarterback. He still might be a Hall of Fame quarterback. But in 2022, he's not a great quarterback. He has to prove with a new team that he's a great quarterback.
He's not.
He's
I
broken.
was absolutely wrong on that. I will admit that. He's not a great quarterback. And I think one of many reasons that he is not a great quarterback, Austin, is because of what you just said. He's too caught up in something else. I mean, damn, like Tom his life is crumbling before the public's eyes, and he's still efficient, right? Like, you still trust Brady, even though, I mean, he's lost a couple of games recently, but like, you still trust Brady to get things back on track and win games. I don't trust Russell Wilson anymore because of that clip. What are you doing, bro? Like, if Mike Vrabel, like, that is the antichrist of Mike Vrabel, right? Like, Mike Vrabel would never once say, like after his press conferences, he would never leave by saying, tighten up every time, right?
Titan Nation, let's tighten up. Like, what? Like, I hope Russell Wilson walked away from that press conference and was like, why did I do that?
Give Xavier what he wants.
Keep believing in. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Broncos country. That's right.
He's broken, guys. It's cannot compute.
One word to describe that, and it is cringe. I cringe at, here are a couple of things that I cringe at. First of all, that is high up there. Couples in public spats. So couples that are in arguments at parties that are yelling at each other or degrading one another in front of their friends or a public setting. That is a top cringe. Like, do not air your public laundry out here. Don't do it. But that's comparable to what Russell Wilson just did.
Oh God.
Crying on camera for your TikTok, taking a selfie because your boyfriend just broke up with you and you just got a divorce. Here you go. You just got a divorce and a crying woman is on her TikTok crying about their relationship. Cringe. There's the third cringe. I could keep thinking of them, but still it's not, I kind of think it's not as bad.
Keep believing in. Thank you guys. Broncos country. That's right.
Again, it's stuck in his head. It's his catchphrase. It's like he gets paid a sponsorship every time he says that, right? It's like he's a NASCAR driver that has to say, we had a great car thanks to DuPont this morning. It's just like, what is he doing? He is a broken quarterback. He is a method actor who is stuck in a character and cannot find reality.
And I hope Dion is not living under a rock with this. I hope that this is just a sarcastic, life is crumbling, what's going on with him? Because, like, how do you go to work after because Tom Brady's on Twitter, right? Like, he's not naive to this. He plays the social media game. He plays it very well. How do you feel when all of these things are just like all over the news feed about, the divorce lawyers and all that other stuff? Like that's demoralizing.
Yeah, when everybody knows you're the worst thing that's ever happened to you, that's currently happening. I don't even know how to relate to that.
I don't either.
Yeah. And then another comment that I wanted to see. John Foster. I'm Ron Burgundy. I mean, Russell Wilson is breakdown Ron Burgundy. Like he's also stuck in that where everything's falling apart. All right, let's get to Ain't That Good News. I said earlier, my tease for Ain't That Good News was I'm doing something on Sunday morning before Titans at Commanders for the first time in my life. And I'm really excited about it. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your perfect make and model, and that is a Hyundai. You just got to go find exactly what Hyundai that you want. It could be the Palisade, which is a full-size SUV with third-row seating. Could be the Sonata, which is a four-door sedan. They've got all the bells and whistles with new vehicles. You can trade in your car to replace it, upgrade with a better vehicle. That could be a Elantra or a Tucson or a Santa Fe. It could be the Ioniq, which is a battery-powered vehicle. If you are in the market for a new car or a new SUV, look, you can go search however you want. You can search online or you can go test drive at different dealerships. But I would suggest go to Wilson County Hyundai and at least give them a shot. They've got great deals at great prices. It's a quick trip down I-40 exit 236. That's wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Download the BetMGM app and win big this weekend for football weekend with our code ATOZ Sports. That means if you sign up with the app using our code ATOZ Sports, you get a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000. Also, A to Z Sports Picks with Alan Bell, Brian Edwards coming up at 2 o'clock Central Time today on these same channels, getting you ready for college football and pro football as well. I've got my parlay that I'm building in college football because I got a risk-free $25 bet with the BetMGM app. But let's get to good news. Ain't that good news here live on our Friday? We always wrap up our week with good news. Brent, good news. My birthday is Monday and took off next week. Well, Brent, maybe you spend Monday morning on your birthday with us next week after the Titans Commanders game. Kenneth, my good news, he's going to the Cards playoff games this afternoon. Let's go. Baseball playoffs start today.
Yeah, because they extended them, right? They changed
it's the wild card plan. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fun. I'm not a baseball person, but one game to continue, I think a lot of weight on that. I kind of like that. Eric says, good news, getting a raise at work very soon. Congratulations to Eric. Jerry, taking my son to a Yankees playoff game on his fall break. Go Yankees. So we got a couple baseball game playoff goers. Zach, what are you seeing in the chat, or what's your good news?
Let's go to Jabu. Good news. Got to see Richard Sherman finally air his Super Bowl grievance against Russell Wilson on Thursday Night Football.
That was funny.
That was funny.
He almost dropped something he shouldn't have dropped on Amazon. A combination of words that would have been very bad, but he did not. He got really close.
I will say, last night I watched the halftime show, and Tony Gonzalez is kind of a goober. Like he kept on, I don't know if it was a joke, but like he kept on saying like dumb analogies, like that was like Aladdin. And like he I don't know if he was like playing a joke.
This is Amazon. This ain't Disney Plus. What is he doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I did notice that if you watch that halftime show, I was like,
I did not watch
Gonzalez doing. Sean says, good news today is his son's third straight start on both sides of the ball. We talk about we're following Sean's son's football career.
Sean's son is a freak athlete. Like I remember, we've been doing this show for almost 6-7 years, maybe. And Sean's son has been dropping like 30 points in basketball games. Now he's starting on both sides of the ball in high school. Sean's got a pretty good athlete there.
Yeah, there you go. Chase is his son. So shout out to Chase. Good football player, up and comer from Sean Gill. Let's see. Good news. Been able to open the windows here in Florida all week after the hurricane. Has felt great. No need for AC. We know Big Ten Jeff lives down there in Florida. Let's see here. Ain't that good news? Ain't that good news? Kenneth says, ain't that good news of going to the car? Oh, but that's kind of where you started.
Yeah.
I'll do my good news.
Sure.
And honestly, my good news, I didn't know if it was going to be good news going into today. And my good news is I cracked the code. I did not have to destroy and verbally humiliate a Xfinity worker yesterday because I put together a setup. Austin, I need some clarity, and I hope that I've been clear. Have I had any, has my internet been strong today?
You have been as clear as can be.
See, ain't that good news? I was hoping that this would be my good news because yesterday it did not seem to be that way. So ending the week, I will not hopefully have to walk into that God forbidden Xfinity store with freaks everywhere. I will get to stay in the comfort of my own home. So ain't that good news? Internet problem solved.
There we go. I like it. Let's just hope it sustains. All right. A to Z Sports. My good news, Zach, is Sunday. I'll be doing the Titans game day live show. That kickoff is at noon, and we'll go live at 11:30 for our pregame show. But before that, I've got an early alarm on Sunday because my wife and I are doing a hot air balloon ride for the first time in our lives. So we got this hot air balloon ride as a Christmas present last Christmas from my grandparents. My grandfather passed in March, and so we scheduled this hot air balloon ride. We wanted to wait for the fall for crisp weather because it's hot in the balloon because it's hot air. So we didn't want to go in the summer when it was really hot and overall. And we also wanted to wait for some potential leaf changing to happen because where you go just south of Nashville in Tennessee, a lot of really pretty landscape with rolling hills and leaves changing and some crisp fall air on Sunday morning. So hot air balloon ride, thanks to my grandparents and my grandmother. We went and hung out with her last Saturday. So get to do that and think about my grandfather and all he's done for me while we're up in that hot air balloon with a little champagne toast. So never done it before. Really interested to see how it goes.
Very cool. I've done it before. It is very cool. It is a cool experience.
Nice.
I did when I was younger. So it means a little differently.
And Nate asked, am I afraid of heights? No.
We'll find out.
I've never really been afraid of heights. Now this is usually when I'm hungover because I learned this in college. When I'm hungover, I don't do well with ledges. Like ledges and looking like railings, like that messes me up. But when I'm sober or not hungover, I usually don't have problems. So I think I'll be okay. Unless Tennessee waxes LSU and I'm not going to be hungover for this because it's we have to get there at 6:15 in the morning. So we'll have to wake up around 5.
So here, Drew says today is his wedding day.
Hey!
As a wedding gift, he'd really appreciate Titans as a wedding gift. So, Drew, congratulations. That's very exciting. Wedding day today. A couple of good news. Let's see. Aaron says good news later today. He's going to his first Friday event and on the way to 78 days until his trip to Cancun, Mexico. So scheduling that out. So that's some good news. Let's see here. Good news from Clayton applying to become a canine officer with his department. There you go. So some good news all around. And we've gotten some football good news as well. So that's a good way to end a Friday, heading into the weekend, October, fall, a little hot air balloon action, a little good internet. That's good news.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hope everybody has a great weekend. Again, A to Z Sports Picks is coming up live. They'll get you ready for Commanders, Titans, also for the college football weekend, big college football weekend coming up tomorrow. That's at 2:00 Central Time. Also, our Vols game day show, halftime and post game with Charlie Burris and Jonathan Crompton, plus Buck Rising, Titan game day morning, live from Washington Sunday morning. Then our game day show, pregame show will be live at 11:30 before kickoff. So we're not going anywhere. We got live stuff happening 7 days a week these days during football season. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Everybody have a great start to your weekend, and we'll see you soon. Appreciate it as always.